Divorce can often shake the foundations of one's faith, but for Jen Zingmark, it became a catalyst for spiritual growth. In this powerful episode, Jen shares her journey from a young Latter-day Saint bride to a divorced single mother of 3, and how she found strength in her darkest moments. Join us as we explore how life's biggest challenges can become our greatest spiritual anchors, and discover how Jen's unwavering trust in God not only guided her through the tumultuous waters of divorce, but also led her to new purpose, helping others navigate faith and healing after divorce. Welcome to the Why We Believe show, where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints share their inspiring stories of faith and conversion to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Nathan Gwilliam. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Why We Believe. Today, I'm joined by Jenn Zingmark. Jen is from South Carolina. She is a divorce and life coach, and she helps people through those troubling times, those challenging times of divorce with a faith-filled approach. She's spoken at BYU's Life After Divorce Conference and BYU's Women Conference, and we're very grateful to have you on the show today, Jen.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Can you start off by just sharing with us a little bit more about yourself and your family and your passions?
Yes, I would love to. Well, like you said, I'm from South Carolina, born and raised. I'm a Southern gal, all the way back to the 1700s, actually. So that's what I tell my kids that have gone out west to college, that you have to come home because our people so far, almost all of them are born and died in South Carolina. So we don't leave. But I love the South, and I have 5 children and 3 grandchildren now. And I have been working as a life coach and helping other men and women stay faithful during the challenges of divorce. And I love it. It's my passion, and I'm thrilled to be able to do that. It's a difficult challenge that I have personally experienced, and I know it really stretches and pushes you beyond where you feel like you want to go and where it's comfortable. But I have learned in my experience that if you can reach and touch the Lord's hand and help and deepen your spiritual roots and grow stronger in those trials, then it really will help you propel you forward to handle whatever comes next in life.
South Carolina is a beautiful place. With the presidential elections coming up here in just a couple of months, the candidate that I wish was running is your former governor. I wish Nikki Haley was one of the candidates I could vote for this time around.
Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. She actually used to live in my neighborhood. So she's a friend.
Yeah? What can you tell us about her that you'd feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, she's real. What you see is what you get. I love that she's, outspoken, Southern, strong woman, and she really advocates for choice and more freedom and less government, and I love that.
Can you share with us your conversion story about how you and your mother came to join the church?
My mom was a single mom, and she had me and my sister, and she was searching. She had had a rough childhood and was really searching for truth. And she had been raised Southern Baptist and, grew up going to church every Sunday. But then once she, was an adult and on her own, really started searching. So she was Church of God, Lutheran, Methodist. And I remember attending lots of different churches before we found the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I will never forget the first Sunday that we attended church. And I went to primary, and I sung the songs, and I felt the Spirit so strong. It was an overwhelming feeling of warmth and peace. And I knew I was home. I knew that this was the right church. And I remember telling my mom after sacrament or after that Sunday meetings that I knew this was the right one. And she said, yeah, I know, me too. And it was exciting. My sister was 6 and I was 8, and my mom was 28, and she and I were both baptized on the same day. So it was a really special time that really changed the course of our lives forever. It was really hard for her family. They did not take it well. They were not accepting. she's one of 9, and all the siblings are close. All my cousins are close, and the family did not take it well. And it was a hard time for her to leave her family and step away and do something very different. It was really different for us, the church culture. And I like to call her my Southern Baptist Mormon mom because she joined the church and fully embraces the church, but she still has her Southern Baptist roots. And there are some things that she still does, like Christmas Eve service, the Easter service. She goes to those with her sisters and things. And I love it. It's great.
What can you tell us about why she chose to join the church?
It was her personal testimony. She had never been asked to personally pray out loud or to pray, to say a prayer. She had prayers. She said she always grew up praying in her heart, not really vocally, and never, she never really understood she could have a personal relationship with our Father in heaven and talk to him directly and get to know him personally. And that really made all the difference. And the cultural things that were different about our church from the way she was raised, they were hard. They were challenging for her. And I remember my aunts and uncles sort of teasing us like, what is it y'all do that you have to go to church so much? We just go once a month and we're fine. Why do you guys have to go for 3 hours every Sunday and always during the week? And they would tease us a lot about it, but it's really made all the difference in her life and in my life and in the lives of my adult children now. It's made all the difference. And it's been really fun to watch my aunts and uncles and my cousins sort of come around to recognize the goodness that we have in the gospel and really the goodness that it brings into our lives. I've seen my cousins and their children and my aunts and uncles struggle in a lot of ways that we definitely have our struggles, but we have the peace of the gospel, and that makes all the difference.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your life after joining the church, about your time as a young woman and your, as a college age youth, how the church played a role in your life growing up?
Yes, I would love to. I remember the first time I heard that there was a college for members of the church. I learned of Brigham Young University for the first time when I was in 8th grade, and I knew that's where I wanted to go. I had traveled a little bit out of South Carolina, but no one had left out of my family. And I just knew in my mind, that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to be with other saints that wanted to live the gospel. And so I planned and prepared accordingly. And I graduated from early morning seminary and participated in all of my, young women's activities and things, and did everything I could to get myself out to BYU. And pretty quickly after I was there, I met this nice young man in my BYU ward who was a returned missionary, who was an AP on his mission. And we got married when I was fairly young. I was 19. And I really just wanted with all of my heart to have this ideal LDS family. I didn't grow up with that. My mother was divorced, and I saw these families in church, and I just felt like if I did all the right things and kept myself worthy and went to BYU and, was worthy to be married in the temple, that I would have this fairy tale life. And I did everything I could to achieve that. And then pretty soon after I got married, I became aware that my husband had an addiction that I wasn't aware of before, and it caused a lot of problems in our marriage. And I just was like, we can calm this. I will help you. I started reading books and going to counseling and our bishop and all these things, and really didn't want to give up on that dream, even though we were struggling. But ultimately, that's what happened. Our marriage ended, and I was a divorced single mom when I was 30 years old. And I had 3 small children at that time. And it really rocked my world. It became a pivotal point in my life. It was really devastating and shocking to find myself in that situation after doing all the right things and doing everything I could to hold my family together. It still wasn't possible. And it was a really low point for me. And I realized people would say to me like, oh, you married this Mormon boy and look how it turned out. People were trying to set me up with people like outside the church. And, you tried that. It didn't work. You can do other things now. And I recognized it was a pivotal point, and I had some decisions to make about how my life would go after that. And I dug in my roots and I trusted God more. I used my faith and my testimony to give me the strength that I needed. I just turned towards the Lord and I held on tight as I could, and trusted those covenants that I had made. I knew that I had been worthy of those and I had honored those covenants in the temple. And every chance I had, I just ran to the temple. I renewed those covenants, and it gave me strength. It gave me the strength that I felt like I didn't have, that I didn't really understand, how I was even getting by day to day. It was really overwhelming, as divorce can be. Your whole, life gets turned upside down, and everything that you thought was secure and stable and you knew how it was going to go, or, you had a part to play or you had a role. It's all changed. It's all different. And there's no guarantees and there's no rules anymore. And I had been a stay-at-home mom for all of those 11 years that I was married. And my youngest was under 2. And then I had 2 other children, and I didn't have a way of supporting myself. And it was just a really difficult time. And I decided really early on, the only way I could get through it was to trust the Lord through that time and believe that He knew was ahead of me and that He would get us through. That I didn't know the way forward. I didn't see how things could possibly work out for me and my children and what would be next. But I knew the only way I could get through it was trusting Him and holding on to those covenants that I had made and just deepening my spiritual roots and holding on even tighter, not letting go and turning us, going a different way. And it made all the difference. It really made all the difference. I felt like during that time, especially every day, there were so many miracles happening in my life. I didn't know how to navigate the legal system. I didn't know how to write a divorce decree with custody and visitation and 401k settlement plans. Like, there were so many decisions I had to make that I felt like I was not equipped to make. I wasn't prepared for. And every time I would just turn to the Lord and pray and seek wisdom and knowledge that I knew I didn't have, but He did. And I remember going to my attorney and just having some things written out. And I was like, this is what I need to do. And he's like, this isn't standard. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't recommend this. And I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I feel good about this. And he's like, well, where are you getting this information? What are you basing this on? This was in 2004. I was not using the internet. This was whatever I could come up with. And I said, well, from God. I prayed about it, and I just feel like this is what God wants me to do. And he sort of laughed, and he's like, okay, then we'll go with what God says. And it worked out. I think he thought I was a little crazy, but I really believe God knew. And I know that He did. And I know He guided me and directed me in ways that I could not explain to my attorney and to other people. And I have seen Him do that for other people as well. And it's just been such a blessing. It's made all the difference in the challenges that have come in my life since that time. So after my divorce, I was a single mom for a few years, but I ended up getting remarried, and I met someone at church, and he had been divorced also, and he had a daughter from his first marriage. So with his daughter from his first marriage and my 3 kids, we got married and joined our families together, and we had a baby. So we had this big blended family with 5 children, and that was 19 years ago now. And we've almost raised them all. The baby is about to turn 18 next month, and the rest of the kids are out of the house. And I cannot say that it's just been, a piece of cake since then. It's all been downhill, smooth sailing. It's been a challenge. It's all the normal challenges that people face with blended families. and second marriages and exes and custody and legal battles and child support and alimony coming in and going out, all the things. We've had all of that. And I would say that the only way it has been possible is through trusting in the Lord through all of that and staying faithful to Him and counting on those promised blessings as we stay faithful and trusting Him to help us through situations we don't understand has made it possible.
I love how you talked about how you never expected to get a divorce and you fought hard to prevent that from happening. Sometimes in our faith, there's a pretty significant stigma that comes with divorce. Can you talk to us about making the decision? And if this is too personal, you don't have to answer this, but I think this is something that could help some people out there. Can you talk to us about making the decision to get the divorce? Because sometimes even after all we've done, when we do everything that's possibly in our power, we cannot control the agency and the choices of other people. And sometimes, I'm not saying anybody in your relationships were abusive, but sometimes we're just in relationships that are not healthy and it's not the right decision to stay. Sometimes it may even be God's will for us to step out of that. Can you talk through the process of you making the decision to get the divorce without sharing anything that's too personal, but from the perspective of how can you give advice to other people that may be in that situation and they're juggling wanting to be faithful and wanting to do everything they can, but they may be stuck in a place that may not be the right place for them to be?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that because it is something that I talk about. Many times people come to me as a life and divorce coach wanting to know, what should I do? How should I know when to leave or not? And I believe that that is not a decision that anyone can tell you what you should do. I feel like everyone has to make that decision for themselves, but I do know the Lord will help you in making that decision. And for me, that's exactly how it happened. I was determined to make my marriage work, and I just kept trying and fasting and praying for my spouse and meeting with the bishop and meeting with therapists and reading books. And I didn't really conceive that divorce was an option. I just thought, this is hard. This is marriage. This is, my husband has a problem. We're going to get through this. We're going to, I really wasn't open to that idea for a long time. I just thought, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I want. I will work hard to make this work. And it took many, many years. I ended up being married 11 years. And during that time, as we were struggling, as I was praying and fasting and working through things, I recognized that I was growing more connected to the Lord. I was getting answers and receiving inspiration and help managing this situation. But my spouse was going the opposite direction. And in hindsight now, I can clearly see how it was obvious our paths were taking us in different directions. But at the time, I thought everything I was doing was helping him, was going to help him make that turn. But I ultimately realized that everything I did couldn't change what he was doing and his choices and the situations that he was involved in because of that addiction. And ultimately, his addiction led to extramarital affairs. And the first time I really thought I couldn't forgive. I thought it broke me and it broke the covenants that we had. And I really felt like, I don't think it's forgivable, but I learned that it was. I learned that it changed me. I don't regret that. It changed me forever. Learning to see him as a child of God with addiction that he hated, that he desperately wanted to get out of, but wasn't able to, that led him, to situations he regretted deeply. It helped me understand why we all need that forgiveness. And it helped me have a deeper love for him ultimately than I ever had before. And so I learned so much through that process of being able to forgive. But then relatively quickly after that, we reconciled, and then it happened again. And I realized this pattern would stay on repeat. He was just as miserable and unhappy and remorseful and angry with himself, but unable to change the patterns that were happening. And that's what made all the difference for me, is recognizing if I stay in this marriage, I am accepting this future for myself and for my children. And as I was praying and fasting and going to the temple and seeking revelation about what I should do about my marriage and about the situation, and he was, handling, going through church court and things, my bishop was asking me what I wanted to do and things, and I was really prayerful about it. But I ultimately realized this is the pattern of my marriage. And if I stay in this, I will teach my son, this is what happens. This is what fathers do. And I will teach my daughters, this is what women do. This is what wives do. And that was not the pattern that I wanted to set. I had kept and honored my covenants, and I wanted my children to understand that's what was acceptable. And that's what I was committed to do, and that I was committed to set that example for them. And so ultimately I made that decision to end my marriage, and I had the confirmation from the Lord that it was the right thing. I know without a doubt it was the right thing. And I think that's important, that when anyone is making that decision, that you get that confirmation from the Lord. And I know he will give you that answer.
I love that. That's great advice. One of the other things I really liked about what you said earlier is when you were going through this challenge, the darkest, most challenging thing in your life, you chose to turn to the Lord. And I think of it as like a spiral, right? That goes up or goes down. And we all have these challenges, and we're someplace on this spiral. So we're trying to work our way back to our Heavenly Father. And when we have those challenges in our lives, we have a choice. And it's a really simple choice. We choose to turn to God, or we choose to turn away from God. And if we turn away from him, we go downwards in this spiral, and we lose his help and the help of the Spirit and the blessings that he wants to give us. But you talked about how you were going through this challenge, and you went to the temple, and you're trying to keep your covenants, and you're turning to prayer and going to your priesthood leaders, and you were turning to God. And when we go through challenges and turn to God, then we unlock all of those blessings and the help that he wants to give us going through that. And we become stronger, and it changes who we are as we ascend up that spiral. How did going through that challenge in your life affect your faith and your testimony?
Honestly, I would say it anchored it. Like I said, I recognized I had a lot of decisions to make that, when you're put in a situation you never anticipate, that you can't imagine that you would possibly be in, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like, wow, how could this possibly happen? Right? Like it's so unsettling. Everything that you thought was normal and stable, and the person that you trusted more than anyone in the world, your partner, isn't there anymore. And it's just you all alone. And I had these 3 little children, looking at me, counting on me, and depending on me. And, for me, I never considered not trusting the Lord. It was more like, whoa, I have to trust that much. Okay, whoa. Like, it takes that much faith to, proceed with this when I don't know how we're going to survive financially. I don't know where the income is going to come from. I don't know where we're going to live, right? Like, really, the basics of life are in question. And I literally every day just put all of my faith in the Lord. And people that I love and trust, my mother and other family members, were like, this isn't smart. Like, you just need to wait. You just need to hold on a couple years. Like, on the outside, it looked like that's not the wisest thing to do. Like, I understand your morals and you're spiritually, whatever, you're not connected or whatever, but that doesn't make rational sense. Doesn't make common sense. That's not financially wise, right? And I put all of that aside and literally only counted on the Lord and trusted him to guide me through. And it has just anchored me and my faith really for the rest of my life. I feel like having that difficult child in a younger age and at such a stressful time with my young family and no way to provide, it just really fortified my faith in a way that now, as of course, there have been many other trials and struggles that have come up along the way, I feel like I have this rock solid foundation that I have a deep trust in the Lord that I don't doubt. I know he's there, and I know he will be there to help other people in similar situations because I've seen it. And it's really a blessing to be able to offer that to other people. When I went through this, there was no social media. There weren't really support groups, not in our church. There actually were in the Baptist church. And there were people that were trying to set me up with these Baptist men. And so I had to stay away from that. But I didn't really have a support system. And so it has driven me to help other people stay focused and faithful during this time, because divorce is just a time when everything is turned upside down and all of your stability is just stripped away. And I think especially if you were, let's say, the weaker person or maybe not the strongest person in the relationship and you depended on that other person's faith then to get you through, like, you don't have anyone else anymore. It's all you. And it's important that you can look to other people. And I offer this all the time. Like, you can believe me because I'm telling the truth. I know God is there for you, and I know he will help you through this every day in every little way. Little miracles will happen, and you will see them as you look for them and believe they are there. And I love being able to offer that witness and testimony to other people.
That is some great advice for other people that may be going through a divorce. And I know this is what you do professionally. What are the 3 most important things that someone needs to know if they're going through a divorce right now?
Something that I've learned in my experience and with helping many other people is that God will make up the difference. There are so many ways, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, things that I had no knowledge of, legal documents and legal proof and custody and visitation arrangements. There's so many decisions that you have to make that come up in divorce that I felt completely unprepared for and didn't really have the resources for at that time. And I have seen in my situation and in other people's situations, God will make up the difference. He will bless you and help you with magnifying your natural skills or abilities or experiences that you've had in your life to help you get through this time, because you're in situations and making decisions that you never anticipated. You really can't prepare for until you're in the moment. And I have seen that he will make up the difference and help you and fortify you in ways that you cannot anticipate. That as you trust him and have faith in him, he will help you and make up whatever you feel like you're lacking. I have seen this in parenting too, right? Like you feel you lose that other partner living in the home. And sometimes, not both parents don't always stay involved in the children or child's life. And it's a big concern as parents, right? Like you feel like we have this home and we have these 2 parents, and then divorce is going to mean our children are going to have less of that, or they're not going to have both parents at the same time. And you just worry. There's so much worry about how will this affect them. And I have seen the Lord make up the difference where you feel there's a lack, where you recognize there's not a father in the home or not a father honoring covenants or setting a good priesthood example, right? Those are concerns that many people have. And it only takes one person to anchor them in this storm, to be that faithful, devoted follower of Christ, either the mother or the father that stays anchored in the gospel and keeps those children tethered to the covenants and the promised blessings. And that's enough. I have seen the Lord make up the difference in their lives as they're missing that parent. And then there's other people that come into their life and help compensate. And so it's just such a beautiful blessing that I love seeing happen over and over. So that would be the first thing that I love to witness and testify of for other people, is the Lord makes up the difference. And the second thing is that He will help you adjust in ways you can't anticipate, right? Something that comes up for everyone that goes through divorce, especially in midlife, is all of a sudden you're single again. For women, after having children, or for men, like, you've raised a family and now you're single again. And it's hard to go back to dating after you've been married for a long time, right? Like, it's just, you're put in all these unusual situations that really push you and stretch you. And the Lord will help you navigate all of that. There's so many concerns and worries and things. And I have just seen, as you trust Him through the whole process and trust Him with your future. That's another thing, because the future that you had planned, that's over. That's gone. That dream for the future you had with that person that you married, now that's over. And so for many people, that means they just lose a dream for their future. They don't have a vision. And what I like to help people see is there could be something better in store for you. It could be better than you can imagine. If you can just trust the Lord with your future, trust that He's got things in the works. They're already in the works. They've been in the works for thousands of years, and we just are now becoming aware of this new plan. And it's better than you can imagine if you can just hold on to that trust and leave it to Him to design a beautiful future for you. You will find it. And so that is the second thing, is trust Him with your future. And the third thing is just partner with the Lord in every single thing, literally every step of the way. Trust Him, partner with Him, and you will be able to get through. You'll be able to handle whatever trial, whatever struggle comes up.
Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for sharing your faith. In conclusion, Jen, why do you believe?
As I think about why I believe, I have to say, I have had undeniable personal experiences where the Lord has reassured me or given me counsel or direction in a time when I desperately needed it. And I felt like there was no one else on earth who understood the situation I was in, or understood the magnitude of the decisions I was making, or the impact it would have on my children. And I felt such a heavy weight and a burden, really, of making such an impactful decision for myself and for my children. And in deciding to get divorced, and then in every step forward, I have felt and witnessed of His miraculous power to take away the pain and the hurt that comes from such disappointing life experiences as divorce, and also to help you heal and trust again and move forward as you partner with Him in our most difficult trials. I have felt just beautiful wash over me, beautiful peace and healing that only He can give. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's why I believe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And here are my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, Jenn Zingmark, a divorce and life coach from South Carolina, helps people navigate divorce while maintaining their faith. Number 2, Jen's family converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when she was young, which significantly changed their lives despite facing extensive challenges. Number 3, Jen's mother's personal testimony and newfound ability to pray directly to God played a crucial role in their conversion. Number 4, despite doing what she felt was everything right, Jen found herself divorced at age 30 with 3 small children due to some addiction issues from her husband. Number 5, during her divorce, Jen relied heavily on her faith, temple attendance, and personal revelation to guide her through difficult decisions. Number 6, Jen emphasizes the importance of seeing personal revelation and confirmation from God when deciding whether to pursue divorce. Number 7, turning to God during challenging times can strengthen faith and provide unexpected blessings and guidance. Number 8, Jen believes that God will make up the difference in areas where divorced individuals feel lacking, especially in parenting and navigating new life situations. Number 9, Jen encourages those going through divorce to trust God with their future, believing that something better may be in store despite the loss of previous dreams and plans. And finally, number 10, Jen's personal experiences with God's guidance and healing power during her divorce journey formed the foundation of her belief and her ability to help others in similar situations.